Hey guys, how's it going? It is a gorgeous morning out and it is a perfect day to propagate some plants. June and July are fabulous months to be propagating some things, and so there's some things around the property that I really would like more of. So we're gonna go around and we're gonna take some cuttings of some things. I'm gonna show you how to do it, what I'm doing, and how I will be growing these on. And I'm also going to show you some things that I had propagated last year about this time and how they're doing now. So let me turn the camera around and we're going to go. I think I'm going to actually start with showing you guys what I had propagated last year. So this right here is actually a rose that I propagated last year. This is one that I really love to have. And you can see in here, I just took some stem cuttings and I put them in some dirt and they have grown really, really well. This is 1 year's growth. Stayed dormant most of the springtime and then went completely dormant in the winter time, and they have just grown and grown and grown. We actually got a couple blooms off of these ones. You can see here's a spent bloom, and here is also a spent bloom. So we're gonna go ahead and divide these up. I'll show you guys the roots and how they look. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're going to take some new cuttings of some things. I have these really colorful containers. These are from Bootstrap Farmer. So these are very, very large containers. I really am loving these. They've got plenty enough drainage. They'll go into these trays to kind of support them. And then what we'll do is we'll take these, put these in our trays like this. So I'll be able to do multiple cuttings. I'll be able to do 8 per tray, and we're gonna do 2 trays. And then we'll go in with a humidity dome to make sure that these stay nice and wet and that they stay very humid. So that's the plan for these guys. This rose, we're gonna check it out. This has been sitting in this container for a year, unfertilized, without anything. And it should be pretty happy. We have roots. Very healthy, very happy. And these are gonna get a quick cut back also. So we're gonna leave all of the roots on here, but I am gonna come here and I'm gonna cut these back. Because I disturbed the roots, I want to take off some of it. So I took off a good chunk of it, disturbed the roots, and these will be good to get planted and potted up now. Now, if I wanted to, I could very easily take these cuttings right here, which I don't want to do. I don't need more of this rose. So we took a cutting. It has multiple leaf nodes on it. We're going to cut that off. I only need something about that big. Cut this lower leaf off, leaving 2 leaves on it. And we're gonna stick this into some dirt if I wanted more roses, which I don't want more roses. So maybe a little shorter than pencil to about pencil height, making sure that your leaves are going up and leaving 2 nodes on it. And each leaf isn't considered where the node is. And we would bury it to about this deep. These ones might've been a little bit longer. And I buried them to about here. So, and they all produced lots of roots. These ones got buried and produced plenty enough roots. Now I need to just go through and pot these 3 roses up. When I did start this one, I had 5 cuttings in here, and 2 of the cuttings died and 3 of them lived. I'm just going in with a premium potting mix. I think that is something that's kind of important when we're doing propagations. We want to make sure that everything has a lot of good nutrients for them and that they can take off with no problems. I think that is something that is very important. I want to have the best success for my plants. So the first thing that I'm going to be taking cutting of in my garden is a hydrangea, which I really love hydrangeas. I think they're really gorgeous. I don't always have the best luck with them, but I want to try to propagate some of them. They're really easy to propagate. I've watched so many people do it, and I know this is also a really good time to start doing that. I'm going to take cuttings from one of these. I've got 1 stem right here. So this is the hydrangea. I don't remember which variety it is. It could be, I think it's limelight. And I'm gonna come through, we're gonna totally just bud it. What we want to do is, you can see there is this fresh green growth, and then there's this very like kind of in between growth, and then there's this very, very woody growth. What we want to make sure that we do is we have something along the lines of this right here, and then we're going to completely defoliate it. So we have this cutting like this, and I do have to cut the bloom off. Very unfortunate, but if I continue to let it flower, it's gonna send all of its energy into continuing flowering and not into root growth. So I've got this little piece just like this, and this is going to go directly into my potting soil that I just put in. And 4 leaves, that's more than enough. If we go more than that, it's going to send all of its energy into trying to keep the foliar growth alive. This is what we want. Probably a little too long. That's probably more appropriate for what we want. This one is also probably a little thin. The ideal size of one of these is the width of a pencil. That's the best. When I put my cuttings in, I tend to try to do 3 because we're going to have some that aren't going to make it. So I've got 1 in here, I'll go through and I'll do 2 more, and each one of these will have 3, and then we label it because labeling is super important. Same thing, defoliate. This bud, and this one does have some pretty large leaves on it, so I am going to cut these leaves just in half, just like that. So it has plenty enough leaf on it, leaf growth, and we'll put this directly in the soil also. And one more time, you can see on here, this is very old growth. This is not going to do any roots, so we want to cut that off. This semi-brown color is okay, and this, if it's just got the green, it will take for the most part, but sometimes they get a little floppy, so I don't try to do just that. I try to leave some of the, it's called semi-hardwood, so it's still got some flex to it. And then this is the new growth, which is softwood, where when you see it and it's gray, this is hardwood, so it doesn't have flex to it. They just tend to snap. Semi-hardwood, softwood, cut those down, and then we have our 3. Now these should start taking root in a couple of weeks. They should be okay. I will be surprised if they all 3 die. I'm expecting minimum 1 to live, but it'd be really great if all 3 lived. And then these won't get changed or put into the landscape until next spring. So we do this in the summertime so it can spend all summer really focusing on growth, because these plants know it's summertime and they want to grow fast. Then they will have all winter to really work on their root development, and then in springtime we should have a really nice full plant. So first one's down, let's move on to the next. The next one that we're going to propagate is actually lavender. Lavender is one of my favorites to propagate, and the same thing is true for lavender. You want to make sure that you're doing the semi-softwood, which is this kind of growth right here, and you can see the very softwood is just right here on the tips. If we do just a full softwood cutting, they really won't survive that well. Defoliate. I'm gonna go up just a little bit further, cut the top off. That top being cut off is going to encourage some side shoots. And with lavender, I tend to do more cuttings than I actually need. I'm gonna do 4, so I do 1 per corner on here. Note that I'm not going in with a rooting hormone. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I haven't seen different success whether I do or not. I don't always do it, but I do it. I don't know where mine is, so we're not doing it. And that's not going to be a detriment to this process. The rooting hormone does just help. You can get it off of Amazon. It's usually a couple bucks. I will link some down below, the one that I use. But like I said, you don't have to do it. This plant actually got a very deep cutback, so most of this that you're seeing here is brand new growth on it. So I don't have the best example of, actually I'll cut this piece. So this right here is the old wood, and they don't bloom on old wood. So you have to do some good cutting on your lavender to make sure it stays in check. But this right here is all brand new growth. And then from this new growth, it'll get some side shoots, and those side shoots are where your blooms are going to be produced, like these guys are right here. So I'm gonna take this, and you can see that it actually has some side shoots forming. And I'm going to completely dissect this one, because this is all really good growth on this. And then I like to go in between some of these leaves right here. This bit right here, we're just gonna cut that off. And then I have just a couple leaves left on it, and that is going to be the perfect cutting to stick into one of the corners, and we'll fill this up. I'm actually going to do 2 of these per plant that I'm doing, so I will have a total of 8 cuttings per lavender plant, per hydrangea, per everything. Taking cuttings doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be complicated. And this is the best way to get free plants. I do this I do this a lot. I love to propagate things. I think it's one of the easiest things to do in the garden, and I actually think it's extremely relaxing. So I try to do this multiple times throughout a growing season. Here's an example of one that got cut right here. That's an old cut, and you can see how it branched out like that. So that's what's gonna happen, and that's what's gonna give you that very full, happy plant that you want. That's not gonna make it so that you get just a straight shoot, because we don't want just straight shoot plants. We want plants that are branching and that are full and like happy. And by me cutting on this plant now too, that's actually going to encourage this plant to continue to branch and continue to grow. So that's another reason that I do that. And if you're still a little confused on hardwood, remember, so it doesn't have too much flex, so that's semi, and then up here, it's very flexible. So that is softwood. And we want to go into the semi-hardwood. We don't want to go into a full hardwood because that's not going to give you any roots. We've got 8 lavender plants that are coming. I'm expecting that each one of these, like one might die. So I should have a total of 6 new lavender plants this coming spring. So this one right here is actually a salvia, and I really love salvias. This is the next one that we're gonna do cuttings of. And it's basically the exact same thing as the lavender, going into that semi-softwood and doing our cuttings. Salvia is a really easy one to propagate also. This one right here has a bloom spike on it. I need to make sure I cut those bloom spikes off, because we don't want to take any energy from the plant growing its roots. We want to make sure that we give it all the energy into forming its roots and not into bloom production. Pop these guys directly down into the soil. This actually is probably a little too much foliar growth, so I'm going to cut these leaves just a little bit so it looks something like that. Very teeny tiny cutting. And we're just gonna follow around on this. Salvia is a really great one. Hummingbirds love it, bees love it. They produce like crazy, and they're just overall a really pretty plant. I really love them. I wanna add more of these to my garden for next year. They overwinter for me beautifully, and they just produce blooms non-stop. So this is one that I really wanna be able to add a ton more into my garden next year. I would love to have like probably like 15 of these guys. So we're gonna do 8 of them today, and then I'll have 3 more that I'll have for next year. That's 11. The unfortunate part is I will be cutting off some of these blooms because I am coming in and I am like dissecting the plant just a little bit, but that's just gonna encourage this plant to want to continue to branch out and be a much more fuller plant. I have all my salvia cuttings right here. These are gonna be so gorgeous, and these should take off really quickly. And the very last one that we're actually gonna do today is boxwood. I really like boxwood. I would like to have a ton more of these around the property, and so this is a really good time to get cuttings. That way for next year, when I'm ready to go with the plan of what I want around the property, I have some that are already started, and then they're free. So we're just gonna come in here, take a cutting. This one you can see is kind of branched out, and I'm gonna use these 3 shoots right here. So, coming in, cutting that off, and you can see this is all green. You can see this is very soft, and then this is the semi-hardwood. And same thing, I'm gonna come in here, pull all of those off, cut the top off of that. So I have 3 cuttings right here, and I just kind of defoliated them, and then some of them that had a lot of extra foliar growth, I did go through and kind of cut those leaves in half. You can see like this. And then for these, I'm just gonna do 3 per container also. And as I see them rooting, why I do 3 or 4 and I do them in the corners is so that way when they do start to grow and I know that they've got healthy roots, I can go in and I can divide them. And if I were to put them all in the center really close to each other, then I would have to divide them and it would be a problem. The roots would be intertangled and I would end up smushing some of the roots or breaking them. And so this is just gonna make it so the roots go and they kind of fill out each of these corners, and each one can have its own separate space. So when it's time to divide them, I don't have to worry about the like roots being intertangled. So 3 of these per container works perfectly. So here are my boxwood cuttings. I'm gonna put these in, and that is all I'm gonna be propagating today. There are so many different things that you can propagate this time of year. It really is easy. Butterfly bush, super easy to propagate. Trees, if you're wanting to get new trees on the property, take a branch of those, stick it in some soil, you're good to go. Butterfly bush, dusty miller, hibiscus, all of these plants are really, really easy to propagate, and that's kind of how things are done. And then this gives you that head start, where if I were to wait till this fall, they would only have this fall to be able to put on all of its root growth and all of its like top growth. This is going to give it enough time in the growing season to be able to continue to put root growth on, take in the sunlight that it needs, and to be able to get a nice, healthy, established plant by springtime next year. So I always do a lot of cuttings in the summertime because plants know that that's time to grow and it is go time. So that's kind of my tips and tricks and things that I'll be propagating. And I'm sure there are plenty other things. Like I said, roses, that's a fabulous one to do if you're wanting a lot of roses. If you wanted to do a rose container that maybe had 4 or 5 roses in it, and so it was a very, very full one. I know that that's what a lot of like big show companies do, is they'll put like 4 roses in a giant terracotta pot or in a concrete container, and then it looks like a massive, full, beautiful rose. So I have those 3 that I might put in one container, and then they grow together. They won't last quite as long, but they were free and I propagated them, so I don't feel like I'm out any money, just maybe a little tiny bit of time. So these will stay in these containers for the next probably 8 months, and then in springtime, should I need to, I will pot them into their own containers that are this size. And then once we get past a frost, then I'll go ahead and start hardening them off and put them outside. So I might go around the property and take a few more cuttings of some random things just off camera, but there are so many different things that you can propagate. Like I said, these are actually now gonna go under a humidity dome, and they're gonna stay inside under grow lights. And I do that for the sole purpose of I need to be able to keep my eyes on them. If I put them outside, I might forget to water them. They might get too hot. They will get too hot with the humidity dome. But if they've got the humidity dome inside, I don't have to worry about it. So these are gonna go inside, and then I have a ton of free plants. I just got free 6 boxwoods. So I hope that you guys are propagating some things this year, especially this summertime. That is the best time to propagate a lot of things. These evergreens, these shrubs, this is what I do every single year, and that's when I propagated those roses. Now you gotta go get those planted somewhere. I hope you guys go around the property, propagate a few things, share propagations with some friends. I'm starting way too many of those hydrangeas, so I can't keep all of them for myself, so some of those will end up going to friends. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.